So here we go again. Facebook Live number 3, and how to define the selection criteria and deal breakers when you're dating someone. So last week I shared with you the biggest lessons I've had during my time as a single, and about what my experiences were around dating someone who knew my story of being without limit, like committed relationship for 15 years. So if you feel like it, watch that video of last week. But this week I'm gonna talk about my experience with a therapist I went to this week to find better balance between my desire and being by myself. And furthermore, I went to an amazing workshop called Date Your Species of Reid Mihalko and Wilrieke Sophia, and about how I can create my selection criteria and what are my deal breakers when I'm dating someone. So to start with was the therapist experience. I went there on Thursday, and yeah, so I talked with her, and I had the idea that it was more like a psychologist. However, she had like, and she received me, and we were talking a little bit about my background, about my past, and the things I still come across, and especially my need to be seen by the other, by the man. And well, what she did was actually quite special. She did some kind of Reiki on me, and then we went to a place inside of me which got the most attention, or needed the most attention, and we went further on this. And what came out of this is that because of my upbringing, where I didn't receive a lot of love, and where it wasn't safe, and where it was a lot by myself, there's still big loneliness inside of me. And this loneliness I defined as dark and black. And we went further into this. And what she eventually did, well, it was a lot actually to explain, and I can really recommend something like this to explore yourself. But what it did for me was that we went to me as a newborn, and to a feeling of holding myself as a baby and giving love to myself as a baby. And I've seen inner child work, I've heard about it, but apparently there's still things inside of me who need attention for this. So we did a lot of work around this, and I shed a lot of tears, and she gave me the advice to, on a daily basis, even if it's for 1 minute, to hold myself as a baby and to nourish myself from the inside. And every time I feel a lack of love or loneliness, to do some inner child work. And actually, I've been exploring a little bit with this, and it was somehow uncomfortable at moments. But I also went to the beach this week, and besides the baby, I was in touch with my inner child as a 3-4-year-old, and suddenly I was just dancing and singing and running on the beach with my inner child on my hand. It sounds so weird, I know, but actually it made me really happy. So every time I feel like tension inside of me, or when I wake up, I just contact that part of me and nourish it. and give it love and yeah, sing for it somehow. I don't know. So I can really recommend if you're feeling things like loneliness or uh, you still have a lot of self-love work to do, then you can find a lot about this on the internet. But inner child work is really, really beautiful. So yeah, that was my experience with that. And furthermore, I went to a workshop called Date Your Species. I went there really last minute. And well, I can really recommend to visit the website of Reid Mihalko. He's an expert on, they say he's a sex geek. Well, this was more like a lecture on why relationships are going wrong and why you're not with the right species. Which was very interesting is that he mentioned that we're all have the tendency to date our parents. And I thought that I already passed that part. I thought like, no, I've done a lot of self-work. I'm not interested in men who relate to my parents or relate to my father specifically. However, I saw that what the workshop he did was how to define your selection criteria and also how to define your deal breaker. I have my selection criteria. So like he calls it win-wins. So as an example, my wins are someone who shows that I'm special, someone who cares and shows interest and has involvement, someone who's good in open communication and has personal growth and is interested in personal growth. Someone who has humor I can laugh with. Someone who's masculine, well, and caring and vulnerable. So yeah, those are a few, and there are already a lot, I know, but those are a few of my selection criteria. And the thing is, he said, like, but when you're dating someone, you should focus if the person has these kind of qualities you like, and if that person doesn't have these qualities or has deal breakers, you should consider, not only consider, you should actually stop dating that person. So when I wrote down my deal breakers, I wrote down that I'm absolutely allergic for men who are needy. And I'm referring to men who are needy in a way that they come here to get something instead of they come here to give something. That just freaks me out. So that's an absolute deal breaker for me. But also, like when someone doesn't show interest or has a lack of involvement, or someone who's lying in any kind of way, someone who's not, is withholding information in benefit of himself, which has the option to hurt me, that's an absolute deal breaker. And also, when someone is narcissistic or aggressive or has no understanding of intimacy, those for me are deal breakers. However, what I realized is that I do have these deal breakers, but there's something inside of me who's not using them as a deal breaker. So instead of like after, like some things are like immediate deal breakers and you shouldn't continue with this anymore, but some are not, like you can have like 3 strikes and then out. But what I realized is that for me, there's a pattern very, very deeply inside of me who wants to be seen by the other. I want the other person to want me. So I'm crossing my boundaries and I'm crossing these deal breakers instead of setting my grounds on this and say like, this is what is necessary for me. So very interesting to see that I have deal breakers, but I'm not using them as deal breakers. I still use ways in the hope the other person sees me. And then I'm referring to my relationship with my father, who hasn't shown any interest in me my entire life. Not even when he was like, my parents are divorced, when my father was still living with us, he was not paying attention to anyone except himself. So when a man doesn't show me that he cares, or has a lack of involvement, then my tendency is to make him see me just the way I want my father to see me. And instead of having this deal breaker, like, man, this is it. Like, you have 1, 2, or maybe 3 options, and then you're out. Like, I'm worth it, and these things are important for me. So it was very interesting to write them down and to really see, okay, these are my deal breakers, and I have to stand for it. I have to do something with this. And everyone who's not willing to go with this, I have to say goodbye to, because it doesn't work. So altogether, that really helped me, even though it was knowledge I already had somewhere. It was a confirmation again, okay, I'm still dealing with these patterns of wanting to other, and therefore I'm crossing boundaries. So I'm interested if you can do something with this as well. Like, I can really recommend at least like maybe visit and do a workshop with him, because it helped me in this way. Furthermore, yeah, actually this is basically it. Like, especially the part of wanting to be seen is something that came across a lot this week. For the coming week, I would love to share with you what helps me to stay in balance, and how I can let go my need to be willing to be with a partner. So the things what helps me to let go, I'm going to share that with you next week. So I hope to see you next week. Let me know if this relates to you, and if this was interesting for you. Please like and share. I would love to see that more people are being helped, if they are helped with my story. And I thank you for watching. I would love to see you next week again. Ciao.